photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.
I'm Mark Rosetto from the Professional Photography Business Network.
A vibrant community from all around the world who's here to supercharge your business growth.
This is not an expensive one-size-fits-all course.
The PPBN is a network, an online educational platform with training and resources to suit everyone.
From those just starting out to the seasoned pros.
You can tailor your journey to suit your individual business needs and challenges, all at your own pace.
And there's new content added every week. But success is only part of the experience.
To us, community is super important, as we all know business can be lonely.
So join us today. PPBN is your unfair advantage. Let's do this.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good night. Welcome to the judging of the Classic Wedding category for the 2026 Australian Photographic Prize. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing some really wonderful classic wedding images tonight. It's going to be great. I'm here right now on behalf of our competition director, Daniel Bingham. Behind the scenes tonight, we also have Nathan, our broadcast producer. Daniel's doing more than just being our competition director tonight. He's also our scribe, so you'll be seeing a little bit of him and hearing his dulcet tones announcing the titles. And I'm also doing your panel mentor job tonight. So I'm the director of judging for the Australian Photographic Prize, and I'm facilitating Classic Wedding. So hopefully you have the best time ever watching this. I know it's going to be great because we have such an excellent panel, and I'll talk about those guys in a minute. First, I want to thank our sponsors. So we couldn't do this without our sponsors, and we really appreciate everything they bring to us. Our major sponsor, Nikon Australia, is awarding our overall Australian winner Nikon product valued up to $5,000, which is just fabulous. We've also got AZO providing the Australian runner-up prize of a Color Edge CS2731, and that's valued at $2,000. So that's for our Australian first and second place overall. And then the Professional Photographers Business Network, PPBN, they've generously provided a 12-month membership valued at $1,000 for our international winner overall. And if you want to find out who wins those, you get to come to our a winners ceremony on the 13th of August, where all this stuff is announced. Now, tonight, though, we're judging the classic wedding category, and we're judging the top 30 images. So classic wedding, these are images captured at genuine wedding-related events, reflecting the story, emotion, and diversity of wedding celebrations across cultures, traditions, and relationships. And when we say classic wedding, that's because it belongs to our classic post-production rules, which is a fairly authentic representation. You can't do a lot of crazy composites. You can remove incidental elements, and you can do things like face swaps in a group. But other than that, you're pretty constrained on what you can do. So in our session today, we have an expert panel of judges, and they're going to assess each image. They're going to score each image out of 100, provide a comment for each, and in some cases, we'll have a challenge where we'll discuss the image in more detail, and then we'll rescore it. Now, when our session is complete tonight, we're going to move to closed door judging, where the panel is going to deliberate to determine the winner from the highest scoring images. So our winner, our second and third place Australian image, and the winning international image are going to be at that live awards ceremony on the 13th of August. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Now, I'm going to introduce you to our judging panel in just a minute, but first, we're going to do a slideshow of the top 30 images in classic weddings. So, Daniel, take it away. Fantastic. This is going to be a great, great night of judging, everyone. I can't wait to see us get cracking on this. So let's introduce you to our judging panel, and I'm going to go in alphabetical order, you guys, and I'm going to get you to introduce yourselves. So I hope you're ready. And Adam Horrigan, you're going to kick us off.
G'day everybody, I'm Adam Horrigan. I live in northern New South Wales in Australia. I'm actually out west in Moree tonight, coming from you live. I have been a professional photographer for about 30 years, working in newspaper, currently into commercial and community events. I'm a passionate judge and educator. I've been judging for nearly 20 years now, and I just love it. It's a real passion of mine, and I can't wait to get going tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Alan Moyle, you're next up. Another A name.
Hello, I'm Alan. I am a photographer here in Melbourne, Victoria. Again, I've been judging plus 20 plus years. My main business these days is more portrait side things, but I did like 400 plus weddings in a day, and yeah, just always love to see good images, give good feedback, and yeah, hope to get some good awards over there tonight.
Thanks, Alan. I hope you mean 400 images back in the day, not 400 images in a day, because that's a lot of weddings in a day. So, good work.
Yeah, I was a lot fitter back then.
Excellent. Okay, Harriet, you're up next.
Hi everyone, I'm Harriet. I work in many different areas in photography. I am an educator and I teach at Photography Studies College. I teach a bachelor students. I also run an organization called Photo Collective, where we really focus on bringing community together and celebrating photography. And I've got a podcast called When Harry Met Sally, again, talking to photographers, talking to people in the industry. So everything I do is about engaging with industry. So I can't wait to see your photos tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Harriet. Coming from across the ocean, we have Johan. Johan.
Hi, I'm Johan. I'm from New Zealand. I've been photographing weddings for about 40 years. And I really like the storytelling part of weddings. And I'm really looking forward to judging this event tonight, seeing the images and getting a feel from what other photographers are telling me. Yeah, going to look forward to this.
Awesome. Thanks, Johan. Matt Palmer, you're up next.
So I'm Matt Palmer. I run a landscape photography gallery in the Victorian Highlands with my wife, Mika Boynton. I'm also a reformed wedding and couples photographer and did that for probably about a decade a while back, and also looking forward to seeing what people are bringing to the category.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. One of the best things about being online is we can lean on international judges, including Paul Wilkinson. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm not sure I enjoy being leaned on by you, Chris. I'm Paul Wilkinson. I'm over here in the UK, just outside Oxford, in the heart of what turns out to be a heat wave. So unlike you guys in the middle of winter, we're in the middle of one of our hottest summers. Very much a people photographer, portraits, weddings, commercial stuff, author of the Mastering Portrait Photography book, and host of the podcast of the same name. And I'm going to say it's a pleasure to be here, but let's wait until the end to check that out, shall we?
Okay. The challenge has been laid out. Thanks, Paul. And last but not least, we've got Vicky.
Hello, I'm Vicky McKay from Victoria. I have a passion for fine art. I absolutely love it. But I started with weddings in the 80s. When I first started professionally, I worked doing weddings and BMX bikes, so strange combination. Later years, I did portraits, continued weddings, and I teach classic processes. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight. I love weddings.
Awesome. Thanks, Vicky. And hopefully you can hear some of the passion in our judges' voices about weddings and wedding photography. So we're in for a good night. Daniel, are we all good to go?
We're good to go.
Let's do this. Let's have our first image of the classic wedding category, please.
This image is entitled Cloudy with a Chance of Showers.
Oh, I need to put some judges on. So we're going to start with, did it again, Chris, Adam, Alan, Harriet, Johan, and Matt. You guys are going to be our opening panel for judges. Want to get that score in there, Matt? Fantastic. We have an 80, a silver award. So congratulations to the entrant. What a great way to kick us off. Harriet, would love to have a comment from you about this image, please. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, fantastic way to start, I think, in this category. So much energy and atmosphere in the image. Love the fact that we started with a rainy wedding image where we want sunshine at weddings for the bride and groom to have a great time, but the rain and the storm clouds can always bring such drama to an image, which this image has. And I think the thing that really pops is that everyone in the image is having so much fun. The photographer's really communicated that beautiful energy, and we really see the personalities of the people in this very classic bridal party image. So yeah, a solid silver for me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Harriet. All right. Now we're going to keep our judges moving. We've got 7 judges, 5 at any one time. So Paul, we're going to bring you onto the panel. And Adam, you're going to have a little break. Let's have our next image, please, Daniel.
This image has no title.
Oh, you want to hit that submit score button when you're ready to go? Fantastic. All right, we have a score of 75, highly commended. And Matt is straight away in with the challenge. So Matt is in the next scoring range, so he can challenge it. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, so I scored this into the silver range. I think it's an exceptional photograph of the aurora, just even excluding the wedding couple. But then the photographers made a lot of really good decisions. So using flash to freeze the couple, but also choosing or selecting a pose that gives us that connection, but also allows them to kind of rest in that pose so that the photographer can do this longer exposure to capture the universe around them. I think it has a real sense of magic to it. It shows the venue, it shows the couple beautifully, it shows an amazing natural phenomenon. There are a couple of technical things that held me back from going higher myself. So, for example, I think the noise reduction in the sky is introducing some little dashes and things. But I think what the photographer has achieved is really fantastic. So I've given it a silver.
All right, thanks, Matt. Johan, you had this below award range.
I did. I gave this a 65 because I love the colors. I love the presence of the aurora. I love the feeling between the bride and groom. When I looked in closely, they weren't particularly sharp. And then the thing that seemed to be sharp was the tussock in the foreground, and it took my attention because it was relatively bright because of the way the flash had been used. If the flash had been perhaps directed a little bit more up so that we weren't being drawn down by the shape of the dress at the bottom of the photograph, there's a whole lot of things that just made me feel uncomfortable. The distortion on the building in the background caused by the lens movement. So there's a whole bunch of things. I might have been a bit mean on 65, and I'm going to listen to what everybody says.
All right, thanks, Johan. Paul, you were pretty close to the average there on 76.
Yeah, I gave this 76. For me, much has been said, so I'll just draw attention to a couple of things that I agreed with what's been said. I'll draw attention to a couple of other things. For me, when you have a moment like this, Matt's absolutely on the money when he says, I mean, how incredible is that sky? But then you have to finish that off. You have to have some theatre in the posing, some theatre in the camera positioning, and a little bit more theatre and shape in the position of the strobe. And that would have fixed some of the things that Johannes talked about. So for me, this was, at first glance, an incredible image. But then when you start to really analyse it, there's so much that could have been done. And so for that, I gave it 76.
Thanks, Paul. Matt, let's come back to you to wrap up.
Sure. Yeah, I think the points that have been raised are all good ones, and I agree with them. I just put it into a different range based on what I saw the strengths are. So I probably scored it more on the strengths of what the photographers achieved rather than what they didn't achieve. But for me, for example, I'm not too worried about the distortion on the venue. I just appreciate that the venue's there because that is part of the story. But for me, I'm looking at the couple and the aurora. In terms of the sharpness, I can kind of see what you're saying, but I think if you looked at his ear, for example, that looks relatively sharp to me, and it looks like the grass in front and behind is kind of within that realm. So I'm wondering how much of that is actually coming down to perhaps the usage of ISO and the noise reduction that might have been applied had perhaps affected the detail as well. So those are all just things to look at as the photographer and see what you can do with the score.
All right, thanks, Matt. Matt, you're going to hold your score at 83. All other judges, please rescore now. And we've moved up a point, 76, highly commended. So good work, team. It's really great to have the discussion. There's a lot of excellent information in there for the photographer and for others who are listening to. So thank you. All right, Alan, you can have a little bit of a break. And Vicky, let's bring you onto the panel for the first time. And we'll go to our next image, please.
This image is entitled Canopy of Love.
Now, all of our judges are looking at these on professional monitors, and they can zoom in on their console a bit closer than you can when you're watching this live stream. They can zoom into 100%, but no more than that. So they can't do intense pixel peeping. They can just get to 100%. All right, we have a 77, highly commended. So congratulations to the photographer for their 77. Vicky, however, is pretty keen to challenge this and have a bit of a conversation. Vicky is on 83, so she's up in the next scoring range and can challenge. Take it away, Vicky.
Thank you. I just love the uniqueness of this. I mean, this is such a unique angle. It looks almost magical and fairy-like. There they are, waiting for their wedding, out in the middle of the forest. You can see everywhere that their family and everybody are going to come and witness them, but at the moment it's just them. I think that's a beautiful idea. There are lots of little bits and pieces I would have liked to change or maybe add, but I really do believe it deserves a silver. So I'd encourage people to take another look.
All right, thanks, Vicky. We're going to go to Matt as well. Matt, you were below a word range on this one.
Yeah, I appreciated the graphic of the image, and I can even see what looks like a spine and maybe a rib cage in the way that the wedding ceremony area is laid out, which is kind of interesting, although not necessarily tying in with the wedding couple. But for me, what held me out of the award ranges was just there's a general lack of detail, particularly in the couple. And part of that is perhaps the use of a drone, and maybe that drone didn't have as good a camera as might have been possible. But I also feel like maybe the focus hasn't been entirely nailed on that as well. Maybe the sensors picked up the top of the canopy rather than the couple who are actually on a different focal plane to the rest of the image.
Thanks, Matt. Harriet, you were pretty much right in the middle of the range and only 1 point off of the announced score.
Yeah, I give this a highly commended. I think it really kind of deserves that range. It's a really clever idea and a really nice, interesting viewpoint. And yeah, I think what Matt said about the couple perhaps being a little bit soft in there, and maybe I just love a little bit of just a bit more light on them. It's all quite consistent around the whole image, and just bringing attention just a little bit more to a little pop in the middle there would have been great. Also, my eye keeps getting drawn to that hole in the bottom right-hand corner there a little bit. So even just kind of bringing the frame in a little bit on that right and just really centering them and losing that kind of hole there would have just elevated, just those little things would elevate it just to that next level for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Harriet. Vicky, let's come back to you to wrap it up.
Thank you, guys. That's really good commentary on the photograph. That bit at the bottom was one of my issues. As for the couple not being particularly sharp, my theory is it's a wedding and what they want is the emotion and the originality and all of that. And if it's not quite sharp enough, they've still got all of that beautiful emotion in that unique photograph. And Matt, thank you so much for the spine bit. This is a little bit like Adam and Eve and the ribs, and they're getting married and possibly going to have a family. So I actually quite like that.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Vicky. Vicky, you're going to hold your score at 83. All other judges, you can please rescore now. And we've moved 1 point up, 78, highly commended. We have a saying in awards, every point counts. Sometimes it makes a really big difference, that 1 point. So congratulations to the entrant on your highly commended. Now, let's give Harriet a little break, and we'll bring Adam back onto the panel, and we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
Marriage, just like riding a bike.
And we have an 80, a silver award. Fabulous. Congratulations to the entrant. Adam, can we get a comment from you on this one, please?
Yeah, look, a lovely capture and nice monochrome, and really appreciate the title too. Actually, is quite good. I think to elevate it even further, perhaps some sort of interaction between the couple even further. The bride's doing a good job, but the groom perhaps just even if he acknowledges her to really give us that connection and show that in that wedding day there's that story between the two of them. But well seen and well captured.
See some nods on the panel for that. So yeah, I think other judges, your esteemed judges, agree with you. Before we go to our next image, Alan, you're back on, and Johan, you're taking a break. And we'll go to our next image, please, Daniel.
No title.
All right, we have an 82, a silver award. So we're not going to stay there for too long. We've got two people who are keen to challenge. I'm going to go with Matt, who's on 86. Matt, take it away.
Yeah, I see this image is bringing a lot more narrative to it. So I think we've seen the technical side of this before, like a Batlik couple with rain falling, but this is a really unique take on it. And it's almost like they're two souls or people converging through the galaxy, and what we see behind them is all the stars. So I think there's a real theatrical and cinematic and vibrant approach to this wedding photo. And I really even appreciate like the tension of they're not kissing, but they're about to. I think it gives it a lot of dynamism.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Vicky, you were in the below award range area.
Yeah, I was. And I think I was a little harsh in that. I was umming and ahhing. For me, I wanted more romance. I know they're about to kiss and they look very happy and that's beautiful, but I didn't see the necessity for the ghost-like images. To me, that's bringing around another feeling, and with the starlight and all of that rather than marriage, it's more of a loss in a way. And that was my feeling that held me back. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Vicky. Alan, we might go to you. You were bang on the average on 82.
You know, if I was more of a sci-fi nerd than I am, I probably ought to get this. Feels a little bit Doctor Who-y in terms of like, I don't think it's being pulled apart. I feel the energy is actually bringing us into the center. So that's what is making this work. So, and the fact this is a classic wedding too. So this is not a post-production. This is pretty much going to be an in-camera kind of stuff. So this is pretty impressive that this has been done in this sort of sense. The things that, like, again, I appreciate and I think it's been handled very well. I do have some slight issues with, I don't know if it's over sharpening or focus or something like that, but just when you kind of zoom in and have a look around, there's definitely some kind of artifacts there around the heads and a little bit of noise. And, you know, potentially, again, it's a wedding shot and it looks cool, but even with something that looks cool, maybe, you know, work on just a tiny bit of skin softening, or especially on the bride, especially and that harsh light. So, but apart from that, I think it's definitely up in that silver range.
All right, thanks, Alan. Back to you, Matt. Oh, actually, sorry, Adam, have you got anything really quick to add?
I just wanted to say that I was again really impressed to see this within the wedding classic category, and thought, I wonder how they got the stars behind them. Usually this is done with rain, and then like sort of dawned on me, oh, maybe it is done with rain. And then you've got this kind of dual story thing going on. You get this starlight. I think it's what I really appreciate really quickly is not only the technical sort of wizardry of it, but there's a real genuine connection, and the things that are sharp. His expression is great. And we get enough of that. We get his hand on her waist. We get the connection of her finger. And I'm actually going to come up a little bit higher from where I was because it just really grabs me.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, Matt, back to you now.
Thanks, Alan. I think you kind of addressed a little bit about the blurs. I would say, yes, it is all about that movement, bringing them together. And perhaps that sense of emptiness was before they came together in the middle. And so that's kind of works as a narrative for me. And then they've also got that kind of darker space around them too, away from the blur, which gives them a place to stand out when they're together. I think that works really effectively. A couple of you, well, both people that have spoken about this other than myself have mentioned this is in camera, which I think is phenomenal. And other than that, I'm just rewarding such a high level of originality. And to be able to pull this off on a wedding day, yeah, there are a few things that could have been perfected technically, but if this was shot on a wedding day, which, you know, it's a wedding related event at the very least, maybe there wasn't the time to refine this more, but I think it's super original. Energetic, exciting. So I'm up in silver distinction.
Thanks, Matt. Matt, you're going to keep your score at 86. All other judges can rescore now, please. And we've moved to an 85, silver with distinction. Excellent work, team, and congratulations to the entrant. That's a fantastic outcome. All right. Not a reflection on your challenge, Matt, but we're going to give you a little rest from the group. And Harriet, you're going to come on in Matt's place, and we'll have our next image, please.
Hold the ceremony. I'm coming.
We have a 78, a highly commended. I somehow do not think we're going to stay here very long with Vicky sitting on 84. And she's asked for the challenge, and she can have it. Vicky, take it away. You got to come off mute, Vicky, though. That's twice. We're going to get some Ozprize bingo going, and that's going to be one of the boxes to tick for sure.
First one, only one. I think this is beautiful. It's got humor. It has a story. It's sharp. It's original. Even the fact that she's over into the left-hand side of the frame, she's rushing to get to where she wants to go. And I just love anything with a story, anything that shows something unique and original on the day. I think this is really, really done well.
Thanks, Vicky. Adam, I'm going to come to you. You were on the other end of the scale and saw this a bit differently.
Yeah, so I think it's a nice capture of sort of the mood and the location of the wedding. And as you said, a bit of a different coverage that sort of shows perhaps before the wedding. I didn't quite get the sense of urgency from her pose, and even her elbow, which I'm assuming her arm is sort of keeping the veil off or something like that, is a bit awkward and doesn't really give me that intensity of motion that perhaps the title describes. There are some other little technical things, like a little bit down towards the bottom of the wheel, that I'm not sure why that brightness sort of pulls me down there. That's a very minor aspect, but I think I'd want to see more urgency and more sort of intensity from her pose to carry that kind of narrative.
All right, thanks, Adam. Alan, you were reasonably close to the middle of the pack for this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty much all the same similar things of what Adam has just said. It's like, again, for urgency, like we've got a veil, it's not really flowing. If we're trying to be urgent, then we probably need to see some things, sort of movement there. And also, again, in the darkening down of the sky, potentially, I feel like we may have got a little bit of, especially around the face, a little bit of haloing from some darkening down. Yeah, so I'm pretty comfortable sitting where it sits at the moment.
All right, thanks, Alan. Vicky, back to you.
Okay. I think there's quite an urgency. Look at her face. She's not smiling, ready for a photo. She's really worried she's not going to make it. So I think there is that sense of urgency there. She's trying to hold on to her hat so it doesn't fall off. It's all quite the drama for her. She has somewhere to be and she wants to be there, but she's not going so fast that she's going to fall off and wreck everything. So I still find that bit of humour, that bit of story, that originality, I think it's worth at least into the silver range.
All right, thanks, Vicky. You're on 84, and you're going to keep your score where it is. And all other judges, please rescore now. And we have stayed firm on 78, highly commended, but excellent discussion, judges. Thanks for looking deeply into images. Paul, you're going to have a little rest. And Johan, you're back on the panel. And we'll have our next image, please.
Wedding Day Blessings.
All right, we have a 77, highly commended. Congrats to the entrant on your highly commended. I'm going to go to Harriet for a comment on this one, please.
Yeah, this is a really beautiful image, and I really commend the photographer for using that beautiful sense of kind of back and front lighting and balancing the two, pretty well. I think what I would have liked to have seen in it a little bit more is just the pose relaxed. It's very, it feels a little bit forced, even though their smiles are really beautiful. They've got some good expressions. There's just this lovely sort of beautiful backlighting. There's this beautiful front lighting. But if they just really sort of lent into each other and the photographer let them have a moment together, I think this would have just come together just that little bit more. I also wonder what the shadow in the umbrella, what's going on with that shadow in the umbrella, which is a little bit distracting as well. But really, like that rain sparkling behind is just beautiful. And the way that the floor is sparkling as well is great. So yeah, lots of lovely things about this.
Excellent. Thanks, Harriet. There's some really good feedback in there. Vicky, we're going to give you a little break and bring Matt Palmer back on. And Daniel, can we have our next image, please?
No title.
All right, we have an 85, a silver with distinction. So congratulations to the entrant. That's a great result. Adam, would love a comment from you on this one, please.
A dynamic sort of composition and color. It really pops at you. And there's also the kind of thing, it almost looks like they're on a tabletop. And you can imagine like even Matchbox cars sort of, but there's so much action. If anything, I would say to what would have stopped me from going even higher, the woman, her expression is great, but she's perhaps not quite as crisp as the rest of the image is. And there's such dynamic lines and sharp sort of contrasts. It's just a little tiny, not quite there. But the rest of the image carries so strongly that I think it's a very strong silver with distinction. So well done.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. Adam, you can have, after that, you can have a little bit of a rest, and we'll bring Paul Wilkinson back on, and we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
No title.
All right, and we have an 80, a silver award. So congratulations to the entrant. That's great. I'm going to get a comment from Paul on this one, please.
Just making sure I'd hit the unmute before I hit the judging bingo. A beautiful moment, well captured. I think you can sum it up like that. And then you actually look around the frame, the sparkly lights, the way the light, the strobe or a continuous light draws you in, but also that really subtle rim light coming from the back. The expressions, the connections, the reflection, all are working really, really well for me. A couple of bits that stopped it going higher, I suspect. If you look at the pose, her arm, because it's compressed against her body, has expanded out a little bit. Pretty easy in the posing just to sort that out. Similarly, her hand on his back either should be there or not be there. And it's just, for me, it's just on the edge. I'd have been tempted to either pull it in harder so you could see a little bit more of it or move it out so you couldn't. A couple of bits of retouching on the hair. But what an effective image. What a modern sort of take on it. And when you're trying to do these things at weddings, you never have the time. So very well deserved award.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Let's bring Vicky back onto the panel. And Alan, you can have a little rest. And Daniel, let's go to our next image, please.
Shades of Love.
And we have an 80, a silver award. So congrats to the entrant. We got our judges scoring was pretty even across the board there, including Harriet, who was on 80. I'd love to get some feedback from you on this one, please, Harriet.
Yeah, sure. This is a really lovely, simple image. The simplicity is what's sort of winning me over and definitely made me kind of pop it into that silver range. The sort of high key, the white and white and white, and is just white on white is just beautiful. I think for me, just the cropping at the bottom of the frame, it feels just it feels a little tight on the bottom, and I just would like to see a little bit more room, a little bit more breathing space in that lower part of the frame. But really great graphic image.
Excellent. Thanks, Harriet. You can have a little rest now, Harriet, after that again, and we'll bring Adam back on. And Daniel, we'll have our next image, please.
Wedding couple in their kayaks.
Thank you, judges. We have a 79, a highly commended. So congratulations to the photographer on your highly commended. I might get a comment from Adam on this one, please.
Yeah, certainly appreciate the angle, whether that's taken from bridge or overhead, to give us something different. Well, it still gives us all of the nice elements of a wedding photo. It shows off her flowers. It even shows off the groom's quirky outfit. Quick things. I feel like I want to see more of the environment a little bit. It feels a little bit like I'm not giving them anywhere to go. I've sort of seen what's been in the past, and just it's an interesting environment, the way it's sort of captured so monochromatically. And again, sort of with that overhead aspect, I feel like the boat is a little bit sharper than the figure. So I really don't get to see quite into that expression that's going on between them, but certainly an interesting idea and well captured.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. Johan, you're going to have a little break, and Alan Moyle, you're back onto the panel. We'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
No title.
All right, we have an 81, a silver award, which is fabulous. Congratulations to the entrant. We have 4 of our judges in that silver range, so that's a pretty convincing silver. Adam, would love some feedback from you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Dynamic lighting, and it's great when we find situations like this, but we can control what's going on too. There's great detail right through that dress, and all that beautiful detail is captured and really shown off in that dynamic. And the idea of the sort of lines going across it with the softness is really well seen. To get it up into the next level, I think 2 things. It's about the attention to detail. So first of all, in the pose, so we can see that just that little bit of a break between the bodice and the dress, where sort of stuff hanging over there, and perhaps even the way the knees push the dress out a little bit, just to push that pose up and really create that dynamic figure. And then it's about just creating the next bit of tension, the next bit of storytelling that would really elevate it up into those distinction ranges. Is we want that little bit more to really push it through, but well seen and well handled.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. And congratulations again to the entrant on their silver. Matt, you can have a little break. And Harriet, you're back on the panel. And we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
The Last Ride as Daddy's Little Girl.
And we have a 78, a highly commended. Congrats to the entrant on your highly commended. And I might go to, let's go to Harriet for a comment on this one, please.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful image, and congratulations to the photographer for capturing this moment. It's really lovely to see that reflection, and there's a lot of storytelling in that, so that's really great. I think it's a little tight, and maybe just giving it a bit more breathing room, just even a little bit more space around the car. It feels quite claustrophobic, so just seeing a bit more of the car, even seeing a bit of the surroundings past the car, and just the environment would have just elevated it a bit. And I can see the photographer reflected in the door. So whether that's intentional or not, a little bit of self-portraiture in the wedding never hurt, but that is something that probably in the award is maybe just not bringing me up into that next category.
Excellent. Thank you, Harriet. Paul, we're going to give you a little break, and Johan, you're back on the panel, and we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
No title.
All right, we have a 78, highly commended. And Adam has gone straight in for the challenge on that one. Adam's up in 83 in silver. So take it away, Adam.
Yes, look, I think we all can sort of see the story. I'm rewarding here. Obviously, there's nice sharpness from I'm assuming what can be a drone or overhead. We often see the sensors can't quite resolve the detail, but there's nice detail through it. I actually looked at it and wondered about the space around it, but then I realized that you can see all the tracks around it. And to me, it's not just the story of the people who are all committed. They're all got something on their mind, and you can see the little stories going through their mind, that they're all concentrating on something that's not, really the where they're going to. But there's been all these journeys around them, the tire tracks that sort of lead around them and from them and go. And it kind of almost makes me wonder how, like, this is sort of the last minute before everything else that's gone in the day. And maybe it's that one moment where they just sort of take stock. And it's something you'd never see. And I think as wedding photographers, we're always aiming to show people their day from an angle that nobody else will ever see. And so I think it's worth rewarding silver for that.
Thanks, Adam. Alan, you were kind of on the other end of the scale for this one.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see those stories in there. Like I'm looking at I kind of find the composition, I see the lines and I was looking for something in those lines too, but again, there is some kind of repetition in the lines with some of the nautical themes that are actually in the dress. But apart from that, I can't kind of see kind of what is happening. It's very unflattering on the bridesmaid in the orange. I was looking for something a lot more. I was kind of excited. I was looking to see to go in, but I just find the composition a bit too. It's leading. Those lines are actually leading me right out of the frame, and it just looks like, yeah, it looks like it's the moment before something interesting was going to happen, or we're setting up for something, but we haven't actually got that happening yet. And again, the bride looks quite disjointed with the arm coming out of her head. Yeah, sorry, I just can't see. I need a bit more talk to get me up.
All right, thanks, Alan. Yeah, and you were pretty close to the average. And you're on mute. I think that's 3 times. That's all we're allowed for our broadcast today. So
I see the lines, and I feel that if they were part of the image, they're not being used well enough. I feel that the moment is, as Alan might have mentioned, another moment, a moment later perhaps, when the veil is spread beautifully, and then the graphic of this bride and her party and the groom becomes much stronger because it's almost there. It's a piece in progress, and I feel that the photographer has tried to take a graphic image, but what they've ended up doing is taking a photo of the process of getting ready for it. So I feel they didn't quite achieve what they really should have or could have. Yeah, I gave it a 77.
thanks, Johan. Adam, back to you.
Yeah, I feel like that, we often see the pretty pictures from the wedding, and we say maybe we're documentary photographers and we want to see the process. And this to me is seeing the process in every part. So the bride and the bridesmaid aren't worried about being beautiful at the moment. They're just concentrating on the bride, and all their attention is there. The groomsmen are sort of, there's one that's on, maybe he's on his phone, or there's one that's a bit awkward, there's one that's fixing his tie. You get enough of that detail, even from the top angle, without making them look, without seeing that sort of in-between expression. And it's a moment I feel like that we wouldn't see, and perhaps it's captured from a way that we would never think of showing it as well. And so I feel like we're capturing the confusion, but we're showing it in that, we said, it's kind of that graphic way. I think it's worth still rewarding. There are, as I said, it could be done even stronger, and then I would have been asking for silver distinctions, but I think it's worth rewarding into silver just for its interesting presentation.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Adam. Adam, you're going to keep your score on 83, and everyone else, you're invited to rescore now, please. And we've stayed on 78, highly commended, and had an excellent discussion. Thanks, Adam, for the challenge, and congrats to the entrant on your highly commended. We're going to give Vicky a little rest and bring Matt back onto the panel, and we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
Laugh, and the world laughs with you.
All right, we have an 80 with very even scoring around our judging panel, an 80, a silver award. So congratulations to the entrant for that. And Adam, you were on 80.
Yeah, absolutely. I rewarded it just up into the silver because I wanted to reward. It's a great natural expression. It feels like a real moment. And I wanted to reward the photographer for capturing that, perhaps without the distractions that we normally get when they found enough of a clean background that really focuses in without, without still telling us a bit about the location. From then, I think we sort of, to elevate it further, we want a little bit more of a story, or maybe perhaps something else that gives us more emotion, from others around, or how that's feeling. But well seen, well captured, and above professional standards. So well done.
Excellent. Thanks, Adam. Now, we're halfway through our category. So we're actually going to give our judges a couple of minutes of break time so they can get up and stretch their legs, and you can at home as well. Or you could stay and watch some important messages from our very special and valued sponsors. And we'll see you back here in a couple of minutes.
Wow, photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.
I'm Mark Rizzetto from the Professional Photography Business Network.
A vibrant community from all around the world who's here to supercharge your business growth.
This is not an expensive one-size-fits-all course.
PPBN is a network,
An online educational platform with training and resources to suit everyone.
from those just starting out to the seasoned pros.
You can tailor your journey to suit your individual business needs and challenges, all at your own pace.
And there's new content added every week. But success is only part of the experience.
To us, community is super important, as we all know business can be lonely.
So join us today. PPBN is your unfair advantage. Let's do this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Classic Wedding. We're halfway through the category for the 2026 Australian Photographic Prize. and we're going to get straight back into it with our expert panel. So let's see, who are we going to have on the panel? Adam's going to have a little bit of a break. We're going to bring Paul Wilkinson back on, and that means he's joining Matt and Johan, Harriet, and Alan. So Daniel, let's go for our next image, please.
This image has no title.
We have a 79, a highly commended. I'm not sure we're going to stay there very long. Paul Wilkinson is neatly up there in the silver with distinction range. Take it away, Paul.
Well, you told us we had to hit the button quick, right?
Yep.
I think over the years, you see a lot of similar devices, a lot of similar ideas, backlit rain being one of them, typically with an umbrella or something along those lines. This, I think, shows so clearly how wet a wet wedding can be. And the author, I have no doubt at all, is backpedaling like crazy to figure out what to do about that. It's never an easy thing, but when, as they say, if you're served lemons, make lemonade. And the author has done that here, in my opinion, in spades. The lighting is really effective. We see this kind of lighting a lot, but they've balanced it against a stormy sky, a dull steel building, and of course those glowing words, camera right. There's so much to really appreciate about this image, but mostly it's about the atmospherics. It feels wet, but it still feels romantic. It still feels like the couple are connected. There's elegance in the pose. There's quality in the work. And I, for one, think that deserves more than 79. I'd love the judges, if not coming up all the way to silver with distinction, at least come up into silver. I think this image thoroughly deserves it.
All right, thanks, Paul. Johan, you're on the other end of the scale. We'll come to you next, please.
Sure. I love the energy of the rain. The rain striking, the water striking the ground and splashing off is wonderful. I agree with you. The posing is great. It doesn't have that forced feel to it, which is I'm thankful for. They're quite nicely lit, but then everything else around them is so dull and grey that it looks like it's been overworked. And it's just the relationship between the brightness of them and the backgrounds. And then I also feel that there's a little bit of an opportunity lost where they've got the beginning of this beautiful reflection on the ground, and then it's been severed at the bottom. I'm happy to listen. I gave it a 76, so it's still going to merit. So it's still highly commended, but I'm really happy to listen and do your darndest and talk me up if you can.
All right, thanks, Johan. Matt, you were just 1 point off the announced score.
A little bit similar, but I would say that it looks to me that the photographer's darkened the sky down, which I think is a good move because otherwise that amount of sky would pull you up to the top of the frame. So it's darker, so it doesn't do that. However, some of the little bits between foliage are a little bit lighter than the sky that's adjacent to it. So when you're doing that sky darkening, you got to be really precise when you've got these really busy edges like that. So that's just one thing to factor. I think it could be interesting to see this without the sky and maybe with more foreground, so you could see that full reflection that Johannes was talking about.
All right, thanks, Matt. Paul, let's come back to you to wrap us up.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, obviously, really good points. to come back to Johannes and the dullness of the steel, I think that's the point. That is absolutely, every other tone, I suppose, other than the foliage is of that kind of brownish color. And I think that draws you in to the couple. As for the sky, it's very easy to talk about a woulda, coulda, shoulda. Similarly with the reflections, I too can imagine how this would look in a myriad crops and treatments. But the sky, yeah, there's definitely a block of sky, and I'm fairly certain it's been darkened. I think that's a good thing. However, by including the sky, they've included the foliage above the hut, and it's in the foliage you can tell that the rain is real. Up until that point, because it's been clipped by the strobe, everything's stationary. But if you look up in that region against the green, you can see just how torrential it is. And so when we consider scores for images like this, it's very easy, I think, to get drawn into what could have been as opposed to what is. And if you think about some of the scores we give for images where there's less craft, less finish, less flourish, I think this image thoroughly deserves to be, at the very least, up in silver. I've awarded silver with distinction, but I'd love everyone to just have a think about that and maybe just bring it up into silver. I think it warrants it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. Paul, you're going to hold your score at 86. Everyone else can rescore now, please. And we've moved up into a silver. Excellent challenge. Good work, Paul. And congrats to the entrant. So we have an 82. Let's do some panel swapping. Vicky, you're on. And Alan, you can have a break for a couple of images. And Daniel, if we could go to our next image, please.
Late for the wedding.
It's close.
And we have an 83, a silver award. And I'm pretty certain Johan is not going to let that stand. Johan's on 87 in the silver with distinction range. Take it away, Johan.
Okay. What a lot of energy going on. There's this energy of the late, there's the energy of the pistofferedness, there's the crossed arms are so strong and powerful. And you kind of wonder what this guy is getting into in his marriage, because he was only a little bit late and there she is. She's not happy. I love the tie flying off, the fact that he's not fully dressed and he's just sprinting in there. I very much appreciate that the photographer captured the full shadow of the guy running. And it's lit in a beautiful way. If anything, it just needed to be a little bit more punchy, but that's just a little thing. It's so strong. This guy's running through the pillars of marriage into this situation. Very powerful. I gave it an 87.
Thanks, Johan. We're going to go to Harriet on the other end of the scale, who had it just sneaking into silver.
Yeah, it's a really interesting image, and I did sort of just put it into silver, and I would like to maybe come up a little bit. It's an image that is intriguing me because I don't quite. Is this a real situation? Has this person actually, was he running late, and is she waiting there? It feels like a story, and so the fact that this is real, it feels very kind of set up and like a story, and that the fact that it's real is kind of, within the rules of the category is sort of kind of blow my mind. So it's taken me a while to get used to it, but I love the shadow on the ground as well. I think that's fantastic. It really adds depth to the image. The tide, the way it's placed, floating up is great, and she is just magnificent. And I don't think what's he getting himself into. I think why is she putting up with it already? So I think we can all read lots of lovely different things into this image.
Thanks, Harriet. Vicky, you were right on the average with this one.
Thank you for coming to me, because I just had a few thoughts. I think I would have scored a little higher if this was in the creative wedding, because it is incredibly creative. It's beautiful. It's got such a story. But I don't think on your wedding day you want a photo that you're looking so cross with him before you get married. So that held me back. I think it's beautifully done. I think it's clever. I think it's balanced. It's just that frown sort of took away the lovely feelings for me. And it is a classic wedding photo. So, but yeah, well done.
All right, thanks, Vicky. Johan, we're going back to you.
Yeah. So my understanding of classic is that you just can't mess with the images. You can't do special treatments, you can't add things and take too many things away. So what I'm seeing here is something that, yes, it's been created. It's probably not real. It's been done for the humor. The humor works. And the photographer has added so many elements of control that it starts becoming quite powerful. If you look at her portrait, it's framed by the mirror behind her, or the element behind her, and that frame is with another frame. The balance of the pillars, even though they slope in because of the perspective, that gives a sense of urgency to this and a bit of offness to the whole humor of it. And then there's the energy that the man is running into this photograph. The whites in his shirt are wonderfully controlled. They're not blasted out. The raise of the foot, the moment that it's been taken, where he's in full flight and the foot is up and the other one's just landed. There's so much in this that works particularly well. This is a setup shot because of the way the dress is placed. This is being choreographed, and it's been choreographed incredibly well. The placement of each character so you can see them distinctly, and then you believe what she's thinking. You believe she's not happy. And I think that's worth a very distinct silver.
And we are on a silver already, Johan. So I'm going to say you might need silver with distinction. So,
that's what I meant. Distinction and silver.
Fantastic. Johan, you're going to keep your score on 87, and everyone else, you can rescore now, please. And we've moved up 1 point to 84, an even stronger silver award. Excellent discussion. So congratulations to the entrant. I'm going to take just a minute and talk about what post-production is allowed in this category, because it's come up a couple of times. So this is part of our classic post-production group, which, yes, I'm reading the rules over my other screen, and techniques that complement and finesse the original intent of the capture without significantly altering its reality. So you can remove dust spots, and you can remove digital noise and film scratches, and you may remove incidental elements like safety devices or lights or stands or assistants. And you can finesse things, like you could remove, we like to say, you could remove a Coke can off of a beach if it's a landscape, or you can finesse someone's skin if it's a portrait. You cannot add or duplicate or mirror elements. You can't add textures, you can't swap backgrounds, and you can't do digital painting. So it is a finessed version of the original capture is all that is allowed in this category. All right, Adam, we're going to bring you back on. Harriet, you're going to have a little rest, and we are going to go to our next image, please, Daniel.
Bride, groom, and family embrace two cultures.
All right, we have an 80, a silver award. And again, I'm going to probably push Johan out if he's not going to do it himself, but he is doing it himself. Johan's going to challenge this. Johan's on 86 in the silver with distinction range. All yours, Johan.
Sometimes as photographers, we don't really get to have an intimate look at the cultural side of weddings, and or even as guests, we don't get to see all parts of a cultural wedding. And I really enjoyed the storytelling elements of this that brought us through a taste of the two different cultures and gave us a comparison between the closed-in nature of one and the very open nature of the other, and highlighted by the fact that if you didn't see the middle photograph on the bottom, you wouldn't know that the bride had such spectacular hair, and the release of what that means, like that she's saying a lot about herself. And I really, really like this a lot, and that it's got so much contrast in it that it makes us think more about what's going on. The physical contrast of the images is a little strong, but it's still a very powerful piece with lots to say. I gave it an 86.
You're muted, Chris.
Oh,
Chris,
man.
I
Now
think you're muted now.
I'm the one who's going to get in trouble now. This is no good. Thank you, Johan. Paul, I'm going to go to you next. You're in the highly commended range.
Yeah. Interesting to hear Johannes' commentary, and it's always intriguing to hear how other judges assess and evaluate what's in front of us. I think this is a difficult single image to judge, and I use the phrase carefully because that is, at the end of the day, what we are judging. We are judging one single image. And as such, each of the elements has to work because that's what we're doing. The storytelling, the narrative, it's been composite here out of essentially 15 images. You've got 3 little sort of supporting images and then 12 photographs. But the problem you have with a diptych, a triptych, or here where we have a whole page layout effectively, is that all of the elements are being assessed. So Johannes has already mentioned it, the black and whites, the monochromes, I think are too contrasty. So there's detail, which at the very least is being compromised so it doesn't draw your eye into the individual images. And of course, remember, we're viewing these at 100% on screen, so we can see each individual image. So there's that. There's the layout in toto. When you look at it, it's a very traditional, very classic layout, as if it was going to be put into a matted style frame or album page, with very linear columnized sort of design. I think for me, it stays firmly in the highly commended area because you have to look at each individual image and figure out, and each one has to be judged. And for me, the quality in the individual moments isn't, for me, there up as silver or silver with a distinction. That's not to say that, to Johannes's point, it's not thoroughly intriguing and fascinating to see the build-up of the day through to the ceremony and then the aftermath in front of a portrait of Queen Victoria. One thing I did really enjoy, still enjoying, is I love the little handwritten notes on the page. I think they're remarkably effective, enjoying that. So all in all, intriguing, fascinating, beautiful, but I think there's some work to be done on the individual images.
Thanks, Paul. Matt, we're going to come to you next. You were pretty much in the middle there.
Yeah, I was in the silver range. I think the concept of this, the transformation from one cultural background into a modern take on a wedding, has a lot of potential, and the photographers communicated that really well in this image, which is why I put it into silver. I think that thing that held me back from going higher was perhaps some attention to detail in terms of the sequencing of frames, particularly in the top half. So we jump to like close-ups of the hands, which does communicate something, but then we're back out to wide views where it's the kind of wooden frame there that's in focus rather than the people behind them. And that initially makes me think, oh, okay, maybe that's like women's business and the photographers meant to show us looking at that from the outside. But then we, of course, transport into that space in the next frame, which kind of undermines that concept. So I wonder if it could have been more effective had the photographer been a lot more particular about which frames they selected, particularly in the top half. And so, for example, just as an example of that, there's 3 sequencing pictures of cake that kind of end that section. So yeah, that's what held me back, but I think the photographers onto something really good here.
Thanks, Matt. Johan, let's come back to you.
Yeah. So I also wondered about the sequencing of it, and my thought there was that it was chronological. So the movement from one space to another space was based on the times at which these things happened, and the men's space stuff was happening at the same time as the women's space stuff, is my conclusion there. I also had the feeling that not so much of this as an album page as such, but more as a storyboard for a video, and that these were the key frames that told us or led us through the story of the day as perhaps a video might be made. And so I was possibly more sympathetic with it than some of the other judges. But I gave it an 86, and I'm very happy for that, but I'm also understanding where everybody else is standing there.
All right, thanks, Johan. You can leave that 86 of yours exactly where it is, and everyone else, you can rescore now, please. And we moved up 1 point, so it's an 81 with a silver award. Congratulations to the entrant. All right, Alan Moyle, welcome back to the panel. And Johan, you can have a little short break. And we're going to go on to our next image, please, Daniel.
Bound by light and shade.
And we have an 82, a silver award with 4 of our judges right at that level, which is excellent. Adam, would love to get a comment from you on this image, please.
Yeah, look, it's a striking composition, and even the use of light and the way that the detail is still held despite the quite strong backlight. I think in these sort of architectural type, or when you've got these strong shapes, it's everything. The sort of slight angle that we see the shadow, and the bride feels a little off balance, or perhaps because it's just not quite that. So we don't get that real rigidness in the composition. It's just a little, it feels a little bit off, even just the way that the groom is not perhaps right in the middle of that thing. And just that little attention to detail can really lift and strengthen the composition of these images. But yeah, some well-held detail and interesting concept there.
Excellent. Thanks, Adam. Matt, you can have a bit of a break, and we'll bring Harriet back onto the panel. And Daniel, if we could have our next image, please.
No title.
All right, we have a 78, a highly commended. So congrats to the photographer on your highly commended. And Alan is right in there with the challenge. Alan's on 82. He's in the silver range, so he can challenge. Take it away, Alan. And you got to come off mute. I don't feel so bad anymore. I believe in you.
Sorry, I didn't actually mute myself. I didn't realize I was on mute. Okay, so with images like this, again, it's something that it's seen a lot, and this has been handled really well in terms of that the tonality through it, that warmth that you get through the whole image, the lines, the details, the texture that comes through, the perfect sharpness we have on the bride and groom, and also that that movement you have of the lines going around from the pop. It's amazing too, and just the two different expressions. You've got the groom who's just like going, "Am I doing this right?" Like just that expression of, and then the bride's just like absolutely loving it. And so to me, one of the first things he's been said to do as a newly married guy is, all right, we're going to go and shake some champagne and pop it. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared of the pop. And she's just loving it. So she's done it for him. And I think this image is that little next level up into that silver.
Thanks, Alan. Harry, you saw this a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think I did see it a bit differently. And there's some things that I actually really think are wonderful about the image. I love that spurt of champagne, and I love the bare feet, and you're right, the expressions are fantastic. I thought that the couple was soft, to be honest. I feel like they didn't quite get the sharpness, and maybe I'm wrong there, but maybe it's because there's like quite a lot of distraction in front of them, and I appreciate that it's the big kind of spurt moment. But I also feel that the background is quite distracting. There's this beautiful kind of rock and red tone of the plants on the rock. And then there's sort of big black hole behind them, which they're sort of getting a bit lost in. I can't sort of quite see their eyes. There's a lot of like hidden distraction in front of their eyes. So I'm sort of feeling it's a bit muddled, and maybe that's kind of where I was with it when I scored it. I do see lots of beautiful like things in it that you've mentioned, Alan, and some real joy and lovely expressions there as well. So I'm listening, and I'd love to hear what other people think as well.
Thanks, Harriet. Vicky, I'm going to come to you next. You were on 78, which is exactly where this image landed.
I don't really have a lot to add. What Harriet said, I agree with totally. All the positives and the things that she pointed out were distractions. So I don't think I've got much more to add.
Okay, cool. Adam, did you have anything you wanted to add just quickly?
Only that I sort of came from the other direction and thought that I really enjoyed the texture in the background and all that sort of wonderful thing. It was actually the bottom half of the image that pulled me away. It sort of broke me out of that really cool texture. I also agree. I think that the couple's expression is just a little soft. It feels like it's focused on the bottle in front of them. That just pulls me out of that expression. But yeah, I was almost there.
Thanks, Adam. All right, Alan, back to you.
So, an amazing expression, an amazing moment, a slightly just barely out of focus, but you can still see all those expressions. You can still see the wrinkles on the bride. You can still see the groom's forehead wrinkles. There is so much, if we're talking just very slightly out of focus, I think that can be forgiven to bring this up into a silver. In fact, all the darkness around them, this image wouldn't work without them. They're kind of coming out of the darkness, and it's just like everything's coming out of the champagne bottle. It's just exploding. They're coming out of the dark cave into their new happy lives together. And so I believe all that kind of works. And again, if we dropped off the bottom of the image, then yeah, maybe a little bit of darkening down that bottom left-hand corner just to even up the tone a little bit. But realistically, that actually helps ground us to where we are. So I believe the texture, the moment, everything is just working for this, and I would love to see it come up to a silver.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alan. Alan, you're going to hold your score at 82. Everyone else, please rescore now. And we've moved 1 point up to 79, highly commended. Excellent discussion. And all of this discussion is incredibly good, both for the entrant and everyone else who's listening out there. So judges, fantastic work. And congratulations again to the entrant on your highly commended. Paul, you can have a little bit of a rest, and we're going to bring Johan back on. And Daniel, if we could have our next image, please.
Thank goodness it fits.
All right, we have a 77, a highly commended. So congratulations to our entrant for your highly commended. Vicky, however, is in the silver range. She's on 81, and she's got the right to challenge, and she's taking that right. So Vicky, let's why don't you kick us off, please?
Thank you for that. I think this deserves a silver. It's beautiful. It has so much emotion, and for me, as I keep repeating, weddings are about the emotion of the day, about recording what's going on in this one day of your life, and those expressions are just beautiful. Hers is so very real. There are a few things that might, like her hands are a little fuzzy. I can see things like that. He looks a little bit deliberately posed, but that's part of the fun of it. And I think it was, I've lost my train of thought, sorry. I just think that what they've captured there is the spirit of these two people. I think they're just happy, fun people, and this will be something that they'll treasure forever. So.
Thanks, Vicky. Alan, you were on the other end of the scoring range for this one.
Yeah, I'm not fully convinced again into the. I feel like the expressions they're working. I just want to have something else around this story to kind of bring me into it. That little bit of movement in the hands, it doesn't worry me as much as the hands being kind of cut off right at the bottom there on the fingers. And then also for an image kind of like this, I would expect the one of the main subjects, the groom, to be sharp, and he's actually quite soft within this image. So for quite a large, what we're looking at here, the expression here is quite soft. Yeah, and I believe that's that extra movement, and we just a bit more space. I feel like we're just a bit too close in.
All right, thanks, Alan. Adam, I'm going to come to you next. You're right on the average with 77.
Yeah, look, I recognise the moment, and absolutely the bride looks amazing. I agree with Alan about the hands, probably the crop. I guess when you're sort of looking at an image where you're capturing something that is what it is, it's the moment and nothing else. I guess you sort of look then. I look at the sort of definitions of where we are, and to bring it up into silver, I'm looking at a strong and creative image with clear strengths in concept, technique, or impact. And I'm not sure. I think it sits well within highly commended because it is well executed, has clear intent, but I don't think it gets us up into strong and creative, as there are some things that, like Alan said, and we've even pointed out. So I think I'm happy where it sits in highly commended, but I'm willing to listen.
All right, thanks, Adam. Vicky, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Alan, you both mentioned the softness of the groom. It's barely perceptible. And if you go back to Max Dupin, he said something along the lines of, I would rather see a depth of feeling than a depth of focus. And I think what they've done here is captured that depth of feeling. Her laughter is genuine. His cheekiness is genuine. And I just think it deserves a silver. Just another relook and see if you think it should come up a bit. So thanks to everyone.
All right, thanks, Vicky. You're going to hold your score at 81. Everyone else, please rescore now. And we have 78. We've moved up 1 point, so excellent discussion. Highly commended. Congrats to the entrant on your highly commended. now. Vicky, you're going to have a little break from the panel as we bring Matt Palmer back again. And Daniel, if we could have our next image, please.
This image has no title.
All right, we have a 78, a highly commended. So congrats to the entrant on your highly commended. And Harriet's like looking for the button. I could see your face. I was going, that's the, where's the challenge button? Harriet is, she's in the silver range and is taking the challenge. So go for it, Harriet.
Yeah, I think I've sort of slipped this into the silver category, and I just think it's really well executed. It's lit beautifully. There's no parts that feel too dark or too light. It's very consistent. At first, I was a little thrown by the off-centerness, but I think it kind of brings a little quirkiness, and I really like that we can see the city lights on the skyscraper that on the horizon there. The trees are looking beautiful. Those trunks that are really lit up there on that right-hand side, and that beautiful bushland on the left that's just as lit up as the stars in the sky. So I think it's very structured and it's very set. But I think it's beautiful. There's a gorgeous expression on her face. He looks a bit shy and a bit, maybe a little bit awkward, but grooms often do. And I think that he's like brought into her face, like into her eyes. They're really connected there. Like she's his safe person. And I think there's a real cute kind of connection between them there. So look, I think it is, strong and creative, and I think it's got clear strengths in technique and impact. So that's why I kind of pushed it into that silver category.
Brilliant. Thanks, Harriet. We have a lot of judges who are on roughly the same score. Matt, I'm going to come to you for a comment from the low end, please.
Yeah, I really appreciated all of those things as well. And I feel like that even seeing the city in the background kind of gives it a sense of place. So it's not just the venue that they were at, but the venue within the city. I think what's holding me back is a few like little technical things. So I can't help but feel that maybe they just aren't perfectly in the focal plane. I'm not getting the details in the couple that I'm so encouraged to be drawn into them, and just not finding that it's quite as detailed. Perhaps the focus has caught one of the steps in front or something like that. And there's also the little lights outside the venue. I feel like the two that are closest to the door may have been artificially pulled back the highlights a little bit, which I can understand why you'd do it. But it's introduced an unusual kind of colored gray area either side of the door frame. So I appreciated everything you said and put it into highly commended for those reasons.
Thanks, Matt. And actually, Adam, I'm going to come to you. It's very even scoring, but you're right on the average there.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think, it is a very sort of well-known wedding location, and well done as a photographer for, I guess, giving us this view. I then think to bring this into silver, I kind of look like Matt said at the details and the detail of the couple. I kind of wonder if it's as flattering perhaps on the bride and the groom as it could be, and just even there's sort of a little bit of a perceived lean in the image. And to me, an image like this where you're looking for all that detail is all about those little details, and so looking around the frame then just to lift it up into silver. So that's why I had it just down into commended.
All right, thanks, Adam. Harriet, back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I can see those little lights have been pulled back as I look at those closely. I think that, I mean, I see it as very straight, like that's the middle of that church is like straight up to the top of the frame. And so I don't see any tilt at all from my point of view. And look, potentially there's a little bit of softness on that couple. I think when we go in at 100%, yes, maybe, but when we look at it as a whole image, they just pop within that frame. They're very centered within that door frame. I think the way her dress is sort of wraps around her is beautiful. And I think they're lovely. I think that they've been posed, but they've fallen into each other within that pose. So I see the closeness there. And I think it's a really well executed image we've seen, a few of these images backlit, very structured, and I think this one is being done particularly well. I encourage you to come up just a few points. We're all sitting either side of that 80, just a little bit either side. And I encourage you to come up and give the photographer a little bit of props for really, making this a great picture.
Excellent. Thank you, Harriet. Harriet, you're going to leave your score on 81. Other judges, please rescore now. Oh, we've moved 1 point. We made it halfway closer to silver. 79, highly commended. So excellent discussion. Yes, and all this discussion for all the entrants is really worthwhile. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring Paul Wilkinson back onto the panel and give Adam a little bit of a break. And we're going to go to our next image, please.
First look with their first baby grown up.
All right, we have a score of 75, highly commended. So congrats to the photographer for your highly commended. And who am I going to go to for a comment? I think I'm going to look to Johan for a comment on this one, please.
Thank you for that. What a lovely moment, and the look in the father's eyes is so strong, so believable. The hand over the mouth is quite powerful. Makes you think about the hands. There's the hand on the shoulder that, if it could have been cropped out, would have made the image a bit stronger, and maybe even crop out some of that bottom so that you're looking from, say, the second button down, just to sort of get away from the things that you don't want to look at and you really want to focus in on their faces. But great expression, nicely seen and recorded for them.
Brilliant. Thanks, Johan. Alan, we're going to give you a short break. And Vicky, welcome back to the panel. And we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
Veiled laughter.
All right, we have an 82, a silver award, and we're not staying there very long. Harriet, you don't even have to press the button. You're on 87. I'm pretty sure I know you're going to challenge from silver with distinction, so take it away.
Yeah, this is wonderful. This is just, as soon as this popped up, I smiled, there's joy. I feel like I feel it all. And that's just that's a wonderful thing about photography, isn't it? This has been, firstly, like technically it's been processed really well. The blacks and whites are beautiful. There's real detail in her dress, and there's real detail in the suit. So many black and white images can be over processed, over sharpened, over clarity, and this is just held in a stunning way. That wall behind is gorgeous with all that texture, and you just want to kind of reach out and touch it. And then of course that veil, which is just magnificent in the wind. The beautiful smile on him. When you go in, she's got a great smile as well, but it's everything on him. I love that there's so much character, even though you can't see their faces, you can get so much character from them. Her dress is so Art Deco, and he's got his, looks like a Scottish tartan on. So you get so much character, even though you can't see their faces. I just think there's a huge amount in this image, and the cropping is fantastic as well. They could have done this really standard, centered, and they've just done it really off center with that beautiful kind of like vertical line that's just kind of, and the horizontal lines behind, which really bring a graphic nature to the image. So I think this is fabulous. I'd love to hear what you guys, especially in the old highly commended, think.
Brilliant. Thanks, Harriet. One of the highly commendeds was Vicky. So Vicky was on 78.
Yeah, I am. And look, I agree, Harriet. There's fun and joy and actually the way it's presented is beautifully rule of thirds, even though that's not a whole rule. What held me back was there's too much hidden from the bride. It is all about the groom to me, this photo. She seems not quite comfortable, the way she's holding the veil, the way she's standing. He's joyous. There is no doubt about that, and that's beautiful. I just feel like she got pushed into the background a little bit. I think that would have improved it for me. It would have taken me up into the next level. Okay.
All right, thanks, Vicky. Johan, you were in the silver range for this one.
Yep. The more I look at it, the more I want to give it score. When I see it, I see there's this definitive line that runs down on the almost third that kind of forms its own frame. And all I could think of was happiness outside the frame of marriage. And what it says that this is going to last for a long time. This is going to go on way beyond the frame that is just the wedding. And the connectivity with the hand and the gentleness and the V, it's just so strong. And then the very definite, well-toned, well-presented black and white of the suit and the dress, a lot of control. I gave it a measly old 82. I'm happy to come and join you, Harriet, I think.
Excellent. Thanks, Johan. Harriet, back to you.
Yeah, great. Vicky, I see what you're, thanks for your input. I see what you're saying. I understand that about the bride, perhaps. I think when you go in, there is a beautiful smile on her face. It is more hidden than his. But there is joy there and a big smile there. And sometimes the groom's allowed to shine. Sometimes. But I actually like that little hand on the veil. I think it's such a delicate touch, as Johan just said, and the way they're holding hands as well. I think they're very delicate. For me, I feel like that comes across as someone that's quite gentle. In their nature, but I think I love that what Johan's reading into it as well, with the kind of the different frames and the different parts, and that marriage will go on. And I think there's so much more to read in this as we continue. So I'm still loving it. I'd probably come up actually now if I could rescore, I would probably just maybe nudge it into that gold, because I just think for me this has just really made me see something different in this category.
All right, thanks, Harriet. Harriet, you're going to lock your score in at 87, and other judges, please rescore now. And we have an 85, a silver with distinction. Excellent work, team, and congratulations to the entrant. And I love that every now and again, the groom is allowed to shine. That's nice. It's good to hear. All right, let's Harriet, after that magnificent effort, you can have a little rest, and we'll bring Adam back onto the panel. And then Daniel, we'll have our next image, please.
A sparkling affair.
And we, with incredibly tight scoring around the panel, we have a 78, highly commended. Adam, would love to get some words from you on this image, please.
Yes, it certainly is a sparkling affair, and that's the real strength of the image is the glow that you sort of get. To elevate in that silver range, I think then it's about the details. So we love all the details in the lights, but then it's the little bits of the staircase and the railings and the highlights and the stairs that pull us away from what we really want to see, which is the nice moment between the two. And perhaps looking at her arm just sort of blocks his face a little bit, and it's a little tight on the left, perhaps maybe just shifting across, we lose some of that sort of messiness on the right hand side. But there's some really nice sort of technique in the stars and even the light on them. So well done.
Thanks, Adam. Folks at home, if you're thinking we're going to finish on time, you are mistaken. We are looking to be about 25 to 30 minutes later than expected. So not quite bedtime for you yet. I'm going to bring, let's bring Alan back onto the panel and give Johanna a little break. And we're going to go to our next image, please, Daniel.
Father and son getting ready.
All right, we have an 83, a silver award, and Vicky is up there in the gold range, and she's hit her challenge button. I was going to make a challenge anyway. Vicky, you're in the gold range, so there's quite a range of scores around the panel. You've got a 76, 81, 82, and 84. So take it away.
It is a big range, isn't it? I haven't even written notes on this because when I looked at it, I loved it. I loved the emotion. I loved the light. I loved the balance. I loved the expression on the little boy's face. It's just brought everything together for me in what you would expect in something that's a memory that you're going to keep forever and a beautiful, beautiful image. I love it. And I just think if people had another look at it and had a look how serious Dad is and how serious the boy is, this is serious stuff. We're getting married today. I think it deserves a lot more. So I think it deserves gold. It's a beautiful image. I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say, though.
All right, thanks, Vicky. Alan, you were in the highly commended range for this one.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful image. I feel like the moment is there. I feel one of the things a couple of things that really kind of stood out to me most was I want to go into what's happening there. I'm a little bit distracted by the very large carpet design in the foreground. Like that is really dominating that whole bottom part of that frame, not actually adding anything much to the story. I feel the story is in the environment is easily shown in the chair and the paint and the textures that are coming through, all of that kind of stuff. But the main thing I was looking for was like, what is happening? So it's father and son getting ready, but I kind of want to see them getting ready. I can't actually see what's happening. I'm just assuming that we're trying to put a sock on, but we don't actually have any evidence of that kind of happening. So while I love the moment, love the light, love all that sort of happening, it's more of that moment is kind of missing.
All right, thank you, Alan. We're going to go to Adam Horgan, who was pretty close to the average there on 84.
Yeah, and I was hovering around silver with distinction as well because it is just such the intensity of the moment, and even I guess to play on the stereotypes to see dad getting the kid ready rather than the traditional sort of bride figure that would normally do that is something I really appreciate. I think what stopped me initially going into silver distinction and probably into gold is just again, like Alan said, the heaviness of that mat really pulls me away from really want to be. And there's a lovely light on them. It's almost more emphasized on the mat than on that lovely moment. And then just looking around the room at the little elements that sort of creep in from the edge and pull me away. I really enjoy that the windows there that shows me a bit of the outside, but then the plant, the decision to leave so half that plant in, I'm not pulls me away from that again. The little tiny bit of the painting at the top. To get into gold, I want all those details to really sort of focus me back in on the image and not pull me away. I think I'll come up to silver with distinction because I think I was a little shy and I really appreciate that moment and the lovely feel. But gold, I'll need a little bit more convincing, I think.
All right, thanks, Adam. Vicky, back to you.
I'll try and convince you. I think the carpet is actually a really important part. It's not in focus, so it's not a main character, if you like, but it is important. This is a very old-fashioned, maybe a farmhouse. They've got cowboy boots. I have to go back to Alan. There's one sock beside Dad. Therefore, the only thing I can imagine he could possibly have in his hand is a sock. And the boy is a little bit recalcitrant to put it on. Who knows? He's nervous. I think it really adds to the story. Adam, not the traditional bride, you're absolutely right. This is a very male moment. This is possibly the farmhouse the father grew up in, and he's taking his little boy and they're going off to be a part of something really special. I think it's captured everything. The bit of plant in the window, that adds to it for me. The bottom of the painting, we're not quite sure what's in that painting, but we're going to imagine it's something you'd find in a farmhouse. I love it. I still think it's well and truly worth gold. So, if you're willing to come up even a bit, if everybody could have another look, I think it's really worth it.
All right, thank you, Vicky. Vicky, you're going to hold your score at 91. Everyone else, you can rescore now, please. And we've moved up to a silver with distinction. Fantastic, 86. So congratulations to the entrant and really good discussion, everyone. That's great. Matt, we're going to give you a break and we're going to bring Harriet back on. And Daniel, if we could have our next image, please.
When the rain joined the celebration.
And we have a silver award on 80. Congratulations to the entrant. Adam Horgan, would love some feedback from you, please.
A great moment, and it feels very real because there's not that sort of camera awareness from people in the background. They're dealing with their own stuff, while the bride, what a fantastic expression, and the groom being a groom, sort of going along with whatever's going. I think for what sort of pulled me back a little bit from going even higher, there's just a shift in the tonal range and the contrast just to the right of the bride, where it seems to get very flat, and whether that's just missed or something like that. Perhaps a bit of tonal work to really get that consistent tonal range right across the image, because it just pulls away focus. Because like anywhere, the lightest part or the bright darkest part of the image, what draws the eye, and it's that shifting contrast that pulls me away a little bit. So just a little bit of tonal work will really lift that whole image overall.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. Paul, we're going to give you a break, and Johan, you're back on the panel, and we'll have our next image, please.
This image has no title.
All right, we have an 82, a silver award, and Alan Moyle is up there in gold on 91. So I'm assuming, Alan, you're keen to challenge this one.
No, I'll let it go. No, yes, I'll challenge. Yes, I'll challenge. Yeah, for a gold, for me, I am always looking for that sort of outstandingness. And so this has taken that moment, and that, admittedly, we don't really do a lot of cake smashing in the face here in Australia, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that this moment has been captured so beautifully just between the bride and the groom there, but then also having that extra concept there of actually having all those beautiful shadows in the background, and how they just are all just working and celebrating, and yeah, everything is just put together so well. It's a very well crafted, put together and very thoughtful image. So I would love to see this definitely come up to that gold range.
All right, thank you, Alan. Harriet, you were in the highly commended range for this one.
Yeah, there's a amazing moment here, and the photographer's done an excellent job getting that shadow reflection in the background. And when I first looked at it, I thought, wow, this is very striking. But the sort of, I guess, the longer I spent with it, it feels almost, I sort of somehow felt it was a bit lonely. Like there's this shadow reflection of all these people, but they're on their own, these two. And then there's this sort of humorous moment, but he doesn't seem very reactive. He sort of it's almost like he's sort of a bit stunned by the cake in the face. And so I'm torn a little bit between this sort of wow moment of the image when it first came up, and then this sort of maybe it's a bit staged, it feels a bit staged, or the kind of spontaneity maybe doesn't feel quite as there, but maybe I'd love to keep listening and hear what others have to say.
Thanks, Harriet. Johan, you were in the silver with distinction range for this one.
Excellent. Yes, and I feel like, okay, first there's originality. That there's this reeks of originality. It's showing us a perspective that we can enjoy, that we haven't seen before, and it's done in a way that is absolutely fun. The people, when you do a cake cutting photo, you don't normally have the people in the crowd appearing in the photograph. Usually the focus is on the bride and groom. And this is what they've done, but they've actually included the people from the audience. The thing that gets me them with a strong hit is the beer bottle on the side. There's always one guy with a beer. Everybody else is celebrating with wine and fun like that. And then there's the guy with the beer and the peace sign, and there's a character coming into that. If you look at the tilts on some of those glasses, you're kind of hoping they're not full. There's actually so much fun. And then the joy that the bride has in smearing this cake over the guy's face, and the feeling that you can see he's having, like, I am really not enjoying this. And they're so oblivious of the story around them. This is about them, but the audience is there. And because it's the classic character, this had to happen in some way, even if it was choreographed. It was still done in reality. It's fantastic. I gave it an 86. Maybe I was too shy.
All right, thanks, Johan. Alan, let's come back to you to wrap up.
Let's get rid of that shyness, Johan. So the one thing that hasn't really been mentioned in all of this is the classic category. This is something that has had to be thought about. It has to have had that concept put together. For something like this, yeah, you could easily do something like this digitally or something like that. You can do the shot and then, oh, concept later, I can just drop in a background and make it work. Whereas this has actually had to be pre-visualized. This moment has to be thought of. Maybe this was just going to be a cake cutting, and then this bride has done this. And then you also see the personalities, the bride and the groom coming out, ignoring all the other kind of cool technical concept stuff that's been put together. But just look at how this has been visually thought of as well and captured on a wedding day. So to me, this is probably one of the most, definitely has the most excellent in concept and craft that we've actually seen in a while. So I think this has been put together really well. And I'd love to see it go up to gold. Don't be shy.
All right, thanks, Alan. Alan, you're going to keep your score locked in at 91, and everyone else, you can rescore now, please. And we've moved 3 points to 85, silver with distinction. And Alan, you did get quite a bit of movement amongst the judges there. So I think you should be pretty proud of that. And congratulations to the entrant for your silver with distinction. Now, Vicky, you can have a little break from the panel. And Matt, we're going to bring you back on. And then we'll have our next image, please, Daniel.
Wedlocked.
And we have a 78, highly commended. So congrats to the entrant on your highly commended. Now let's see, I might go to get a comment from Mr. Matt Palmer, please.
Yeah, I think the photographer has responded to the situation really quickly to catch some fantastic expressions. I think as a candid piece of photography, it's really successful, but there's a few things that probably hold it back from that higher range. Some of it is not in the control of a photographer, so there is a lot of background distractions within the same area as those expressions, which do pull your attention away from them a little bit. Very hard to deal with in the moment, but it is there in the photograph. And also potentially look at the police officer on that far left edge. There is some distortion as well when you shoot wide like this, but I do actually kind of think in a weird way, it adds to the caricature kind of nature of what's going on.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Matt. Paul Wilkinson, we're going to bring you back onto the panel. And Adam, we're going to let you have a little break. And we'll go to our next image, please, Daniel.
No title.
All right, we have a 78, a highly commended. And we're going to go to get a comment. Actually, we're going to go to Matt Palmer for a comment on this one, please.
Yeah, I think the photographer's done a great job of capturing the silhouette, and there is a little bit of detail in there as well, just to kind of fill it in. It's not a pure black silhouette. It's a very serene backdrop that they've captured. I think one thing that takes away from that serenity is the level of noise. Generally, I forgive a lot of noise, but with how delicate that area is, just treating that noise a little bit more sympathetically would help improve it. And also one thing to potentially experiment with is I think it could work really well as a square crop as well. So something to experiment with, because that tree kind of leaning over them is gorgeous.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. And everyone, this brings us to the end of the this is our last one, isn't it? Yes, this is our last one. Fantastic. This is the end of the classic wedding category for the 2026 Australian Photographic Prize. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to our entrants for bringing these great images, and to our judges as well. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to break and go off of YouTube, and we're going to go into closed door judging, where we're going to select the look at our highly scored images and select the winner for the Australian side of things. You don't get to watch that. If you want to know who wins, you've got to come to the awards ceremony on the 13th of August. So it's going to be great. That's where all of our first, second, third places for Australians and all of our international category winners and are announced, and then our division winners and overall winners. So it's going to be a great night. Everyone, thank you so much to our panel of judges who were excellent tonight. I'm just going to go through and name them. So Adam Horrigan, Alan Moyle, Harriet Tarbuck, Johan Van Kaan from New Zealand, Matt Palmer, Paul Wilkinson all the way from the UK, and Vicky McKay. And we had Daniel Bingham was scribing and taking care of all of our software stuff tonight. I'm Chris Anderson, your panel mentor. Now, if your Saturday is looking empty and you feel like watching some more judging, we have 3 categories for you tomorrow. So we're kicking off first thing in the morning at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time with the creative category. We're following that up 3 hours later with the in-camera artistry category, and then the nature category in the afternoon. So it's going to be a massive day of judging tomorrow. And on Sunday, we've got classic portrait as well. So hopefully we'll see you there for those. Thanks again to our judges and our entrants, and have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Wow, photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.
I'm Mark Rizzetto from the Professional Photography Business Network.
A vibrant community from all around the world who's here to supercharge your business growth.
This is not an expensive one-size-fits-all course.
The PPBN is a network,
An online educational platform with training and resources to suit everyone.
from those just starting out to the seasoned pros.
You can tailor your journey to suit your individual business needs and challenges, all at your own pace.
And there's new content added every week. But success is only part of the experience.
To us, community is super important as we all know business can be lonely.
So join us today. PPBN is your unfair advantage. Let's do this.